This video accompanies the paper titled A Theory of How Columns in the Neocortex Enable Learning the Structure of the World by Jeff Hawkins, Subutai Ahmed, and Yue Kui. It illustrates the inference mechanism described in the paper. Although the video uses touch, the same mechanism can be applied to all sensory modalities. As described in the paper, this video will illustrate our model, which introduces the theory of location information and shows how cortical columns can use location information to form robust predictive models of objects. To do this, we will look at the question of how a human recognizes objects just through touch, such as reaching into a box with an object and identifying it. We will simulate a hand, and we will assume that information from each finger goes into distinct cortical columns. We will first demonstrate inference with one column, and then how multiple columns cooperate to perform inference faster. On the left, you see a one-column network with an input layer on the bottom and an output layer on top. We assume the network has already been trained on a set of objects. The green circle on the finger represents the sensor. The blue circles on the cup highlight the three areas where it's going to touch. As the finger moves towards the first point, a location signal is generated representing where it's going to touch on the cup. The location signal depolarizes the set of cells whose distal dendritic segments match this location. This represents a prediction of the feature that will be sensed. When the finger touches the first spot, the sensory input activates a set of mini-columns in the input layer. Cells in these mini-columns that were also predicted by the location signal become active. These cells are shown in pink. This propagates to the output layer and invokes a union of the cells representing all objects which contain this feature at this location. In this case, a cup, ball, and can. What's happening here is the system is thinking, based on this sensory feature at this location, what could the object be? With this single touch, the system can eliminate many possibilities, but cannot disambiguate between these three objects. Now it touches the second location. The input layer receives the next location signal and the next sensory input. That combination gets sent to the output layer. The output layer learns by integrating input over time. So after this second touch, the output layer integrates its previous representation with the current input and knows that it can't be the ball. Notice the output representation is becoming smaller. Now it's a union of the input from the two touches. As a result, it represents only two possible objects. At the third location, it goes through the same process, and now the output recognizes the cup, as shown by the unique representation at the output layer. Now let's look at what happens when multiple fingers and multiple cortical columns are involved, in this case 3. With the first grasp, the thumb and first two fingers touch the cup. Each column receives a unique location signal and sensory input corresponding to each finger. The output layer of each column is individually trying to guess the object based on that feature location pair. But because of the lateral connections between the columns, the three columns settle on a representation that is consistent across all three. In this case, the can and cup are still valid hypotheses, but the ball is eliminated. Now it does a second grasp. And again, the columns arrive at a stable representation, and here it knows that it must be the cup. By using 3 fingers at a time, the network can recognize the object with fewer touches compared to a single column. In the brain, there are usually many columns operating in parallel, and inference can often occur with a single grasp, or in the case of vision, with a single glance. In summary, each column integrates inputs over time so that individual columns can learn and recognize complete objects. Multiple columns integrate inputs over space so that recognition can occur faster.